When most people think about retirement, the first question that comes to mind is how much money will I need? It's a valid question, but to answer it well, we have to start somewhere more fundamental. Your personal budget. Knowing how much you spend today gives you a realistic picture of what you'll need tomorrow. That budget becomes your roadmap. It's not just a spreadsheet, it's the foundation for your retirement plan. Now, one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming their expenses will magically go down once they retire. But that's not always the case. Let's start with the good news, though. Some expenses do go down. Think about your work life today. Maybe you drove 30 minutes each way and you're driving 5 days a week. That's gas, that's wear and tear on the car, maybe even tolls or parking. Retirees don't have those daily drivers anymore. That's money saved. Then there's also clothing and dining out. You may not need to keep up a professional wardrobe or spend $15 a day grabbing lunch near the office. Over a month, that's hundreds of dollars that you're no longer spending. Mortgage is another big one. If you've been in your home for a while, chances are you're either close to paying it off or already have. Retiring without a house payment is one of the biggest financial wins that you can have. But on the flip side, some costs creep up and some jump up. One of the biggest ones is healthcare. Here's a real life example. I worked with a couple, both in their early 60s, who thought their expenses would drop by about 25% retirement. But what they hadn't accounted for was the cost of premiums, prescriptions, dental work, and copays. Just 1 year in, they were spending more than they were while working, and that's because of rising medical costs. Even with Medicare, there's still out-of-pocket expenses. Things like supplemental coverage, hearing aids, and long-term care, they aren't always fully covered. Then there's lifestyle spending. Retirement comes with a lot of free time, and while that sounds great, it can also be expensive. Think of it this way. Right now, if you're working 40 plus hours a week, your free time is limited. But once you're retired, every day is like a Saturday. And if you treat every day like a Saturday, your spending may start to reflect that. I had a client, we'll call him Bill, who was a casual golfer, maybe once or twice a month. After retirement, he was on the course 4 days a week. And that meant not just green fees, but the new clubs, new shoes, and even travel to out-of-state golf resorts with his friends. It was his dream, but it came with a cost that he hadn't planned for. You also have to consider travel, especially in those go-go years of early retirement when your health is still good. Whether it's cruises, RV trips, or visiting the grandkids, travel adds up quickly. Airline tickets, hotels, dining out, tickets to events, these are not daily expenses, but they can create major spikes throughout the year. Finally, donations and family support. Many retirees want to give to their church, their favorite charity, or their children and grandkids. And while giving is incredibly rewarding, it has to be accounted for in your plan. Now let's talk about inflation. And I want to be really clear here. Inflation isn't just a risk in retirement. It's a guarantee. If you're retiring at 65, there's a real possibility you'll live another 25 or even 30 years. That's 3 decades of rising prices. Remember the $5 footlong? Today that sandwich is closer to $10. That's just one example, but multiply that across utilities, groceries, insurance, and travel. If your retirement doesn't account for inflation, it's like trying to hit a moving target while wearing a blindfold. Let's say your retirement income is $6,000 a month. That might work just fine today, but if inflation averages 3%, then in 20 years, that same $6,000 will only have the buying power of about $3,300. That's a major cut into your standard of living unless your income grows with inflation. And that brings us to unexpected expenses. Even the best laid plans got disrupted by surprise cost. There's things like medical emergencies, a leaky roof, a new HVAC system. Your adult child could lose their job and maybe have to move back in. Or maybe you're forced to buy a new vehicle when yours gives out. That's why we encourage clients to maintain a retirement emergency fund separate from their regular investment portfolio. You want accessible cash, not tied to the market, ready to recover a $10,000 curveball without derailing your plan. One retired couple I worked with had $25,000 set aside for emergencies. It seemed like an overkill until their HVAC system and hot water heater went out in the same month. The cash reserve saves them from having to sell investments during the market dip. So how do you build a retirement plan that actually works? Let's ask the right questions. Have I factored in inflation? Will my income grow over time, or is it flat? Do I have a cushion for unexpected costs? Is there money set aside for emergencies? Have I considered lifestyle inflation? Will I spend more money on hobbies, travel, or family? Are there any major expenses going away, like a mortgage, maybe a car? Or are there any new ones that will show up? Have I accounted for long-term care needs? Do I have insurance, a plan to self-fund, or will I only rely on Medicaid? Answering these questions honestly is what separates a wishful retirement from a resilient one. Everything begins with your current spending. Go through your credit card statements and bank accounts for the last 3 months. Categorize everything. How much you spend on housing, food, gas, subscriptions, gifts. Next, ask which one of these will go away, which will increase, and which will stay the same. Use that to project your essential versus discretionary expenses in retirement. Your essential expenses are things like housing, healthcare, food, and utilities. Your discretionary expenses are things like travel, hobbies, gifts, and dining out. This gives you a clear picture of how much income you'll need versus how much you'd like to have. It also helps your advisor determine which income sources should fund which type of expense. For example, you may want guaranteed income like Social Security or a pension to cover essentials and variable income from investments, and that would support your discretionary spending. Retirement isn't just a finish line. It's the start of a new chapter, one that could last 20, 30, or even 40 years. And the best retirement plans are built to adapt. They grow with you. They anticipate inflation, allow for lifestyle changes, and protect against life's curveballs. So if you're close to retirement, or even if it's still a few years off, start with your budget. Understand what you spend now and think about how it could change. And then work with a financial advisor to build a plan that goes beyond the spreadsheet, one that supports the life you really want to live. Because true retirement success isn't about having a number, it's about having a strategy.